Hello, fellow book people. It's Jay here, doing my sort of check-in for the end of November. It was a very. I'll start off with my non-fiction reading because that's primarily what I did. It was except for that one Star Trek novel, which I've got my review up of. Got a bunch of other stuff. Well, not a bunch. I've got 2 other videos I'll put out at some point. But what I'm talking about right now is just what I was reading, which was some non-fiction. Of which I'm still reading, because nonfiction I go very slowly with. The first one is The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian, which is like 300 maxims. I'm still kind of going through it. I kind of fell behind, actually. I need to kind of pick up past the pace. It was my goal to have like 10 maxims a day or something like that, and I kind of ground to a halt. Probably because I've been kind of struggling around with other books and stuff like that. But yeah, at the end of whenever I do, I'll probably kind of read a couple of highlights and give you my thoughts on that. The next book, also kind of on the religious theme, turned out, I didn't realize at the time, is On Reading Well by Karen Swallow Prior, which, reading on the back, which acclaimed author Karen Swallow Prior takes us on a guided tour through the great works of great literature, helping us to learn to love life, literature, and God through our encounters with great writing. And, well, I don't believe in God. It's a made-up thing. So that has been a struggle for me, because there's a lot of assertions made in this book that kind of make a claim for that that good life, the virtues, the morality, that only can be accessible through a relationship with God, which I don't have. But it is a good book for getting me to think about, well, you know, I read, and what am I getting out of reading, and you know, it's not obviously I'm a reader of fiction, so it's not like sort of I'm reading it for facts primarily, or like facts alone just doesn't get me through. This book is divided into cardinal virtues, theological virtues, heavenly virtues, of which, yeah, well, I'll have more to discuss on that one, but it's been one that I've been kind of struggling through, but also finding enough reward in to continue along with, even as I've been complaining. The last book, since I kind of bounced off of The Force of Destiny, Duggan, by Christopher Duggan, and so I ended up picking up David Gilmour, The Pursuit of Italy, which funnily enough has a thank you to Christopher Duggan for having to look through the manuscript, which I guess is good endorsement. I didn't have any troubles with that book. That book was just too deep of a dive for me. That was getting too into the nitty-gritty, and while this one isn't like, you know, a kind of surface easy read, it's a little bit further pulled back. It's a history of a land, its regions, and their people. So we definitely we're going all the way back, but in a fairly kind of more discursive way. But it's not done in such a way. It's still got enough of a kind of a hook to it. The writing's still good enough that it's propelling me through. It's not just sort of dry recitation of the facts to kind of cover the ground. So I'm really enjoying that. So that's my nonfiction November, which I think everyone's having a different nonfiction November, even those who are following the various read-alongs. To keep me company, to keep some fiction in my life and nonfiction November, well, and just because I do it every November, it's National Novel Writing Month, which, you know, based out of the United States, where they call things national, and everybody all over the world does it, but it's still national. It's each nation doing it and all coming together. It should be International Novel Writing Month, but it isn't. I think the Americans do it especially to torture themselves, because at the very end of the month there's all the Thanksgiving stuff for them, and so there's they're always complaining about it, which is quite endearing, but no one changes it. I think it's a part of the challenge, part of that, oh, are you hard enough? And thankfully I'm a Canadian, so I get to be soft. And to be honest, for me, there's pantsers, people who just kind of write out whatever, and there's plotters who've planned out everything before, and I fall in between the things, but I'm also a plotter. And this works very well for me for National Novel Writing Month, because I just got up every morning, I got my words in, I did another little spurt at just before going to work around 2, and then I come home from work and I get a little, just get a little bit more in, and I was basically getting about 2,000 words a day or a little bit above that. I just kept on doing that every day. I could not write more than that to save my life. It would just kill me. But I just did that every single day, and now it's I'm taping this on like November the 26th. I'll probably release it more close to the end. That's why it's good to just, but I figured I'd mention it now, because by the end of the month I'll be in the middle of a week and I'll never tape anything. But yeah, so I'm well over the 50,000 already, and just yeah, enjoyed it. It's words. It's a story. There is a story there. It's nothing that's anything finished. As the Poptimist has begged, please don't make me read your NaNoWriMo novel. It's like I'm highly, even if I thought this is something I would continue with, this is something that, yes, you've gotten a first draft, your first vomit onto the page. Now you need to. You've gotten the raw materials. Let's not say vomit. You've gotten your raw materials. Now you need to actually arrange them and order them, and hone them, and do all that stuff. And that's like another year, or that would be another year or two to be optimistic for someone, especially of someone of my skill level. Something I wrote now, maybe in like 5 years' time, it would be worth trying to get published, which I'm not going to do. So I don't have to worry about that. Yeah, so that's basically all that's been going on. If for some reason, like at the beginning of the month, I had like kind of a cold or the flu, and so I read a Star Trek novel, and I did that video because that was like, I got a little bit of comfort reading, and hey, it happens to fall within Matt at Paperback Junkies' Boldly Gold November, so I did a video for that. I'm hoping to have it petered out a bit. Sounds like Matt had his own life stuff. I'm expecting, of course, another video from Steve, since he did that nice little hint there in the end of his Moby Dick. Steve Donahue of he does multiple read-alongs, and he did multiple videos for Boldly Go November, the Star Trek read-along, where you just have to read one Star Trek novel. And of course, Steve overdid things, as Steve does, and he did a whole ton. I'm hoping for yet maybe a closer video, because he did like 9 videos, and come on, Steve, you got to do at least 10 videos, or else it's not really you haven't really done anything. And besides, at the very end of your Moby Dick read-along, you read that quote that's obviously is a quote from The Wrath of Khan, where he does that, "I spit from the heart of hell," that's Khan, which everyone knows that Herman Melville was a huge Star Trek fan, ahead of his time in that, as in a lot of other things, which is why he's been so sadly neglected. So I'm looking forward to that last Boldly Go November video from Steve, of course, as we all are, and what I fear is that basically all the crappy Star Trek: The Next Generation and Voyager and Deep Space Nine novels just defeated him. Finally, there's something that he hit a wall against, and that was it. The guy who said he wouldn't bail anything, I bet he bailed. I bet that's the problem. He bailed out of a whole bunch of those tie-in novels. He needs to go back to the original series, where all the great Star Trek literature, of course, comes from. Yes, I mean, tongue-in-cheek. Actually, I'm such a Star Trek snob. In that sense, it's funny. In literature, I'm only a Star Trek novel snob for the old series, whereas for the actual watching it, which I suppose is the primary way that people did it. You get me in ye olde times. It was like my first big gulp of Star Trek. I feel seems to have been through the tie-in novels. I have a fixation with the old. I only read Star Trek tie-in novels from the original series, and I can't even try with the old ones. And perhaps it's because of all the disparaging things. Maybe it's for all the reasons, the disparaging reasons that Steve put for his foray into the Next Generation novels of how boring and cardboard the characters are there. Though I do wonder if that's a bit of the old school bias getting in Steve's way. Maybe he needs to revisit them, reread them over and over again. That could be the case too. All right, I'm babbling. I'm out in the rain. That's why there's all these sounds. My house isn't leaking. I'm outside. I'm just trying not to bother people inside. All right, more videos later.